There we go. There's Avalon. And there's Emmett. Yay! There we go. Good day, good day, good day. There's Avalon. Thank you. We'll come back to you in probably about 20 minutes or so, and then we're gonna have a chat with you, okay? Thank you for being here, Avalon. Okay, everything okay now? I think we're recording. We're good. Okay.
Good.
Yep. So I'll do the diversity welcome, and then we'll talk about what we're going to talk about today. Okay. So I would like to welcome all women, men, and transgender and other identified people here today. Welcome. I welcome everyone here who is a mother, father, sister, auntie, brother, uncle, cousin, son, daughter, grandmother, or grandfather. Welcome. I welcome people of all races, tribes, and descent. I welcome survivors and those who support them. I welcome all people single, married, partnered, dating, celibate, or involved in whatever sort of relationship is right for you. I welcome working class, middle class, and owning class people, and others for whom those labels feel awkward and not quite right for you. I welcome gay, lesbian, bisexual, heterosexual, two-spirited, queer, asexual, and others for whom none of the current labels fit. I welcome your emotions, your joy, your bliss, grief, rage, hope, frustration, contentment, and sadness. I welcome everyone's special way of understanding and knowing the world, everyone's wisdom, whether it is education that has been learned in schools, colleges, and universities, and or the deep and profound school of life. I welcome those living with chronic medical conditions and disabilities, visible and invisible. Welcome. I welcome your families, genetic and otherwise, our networks of family and friends who make our lives easier, happier, and gentler to be in. I welcome mystics, seekers, and believers of all kinds. I welcome our elders who guide us and give us wisdom here in this group or elsewhere, living and those who have passed away. I welcome people who identify as activists, community leaders, artists, musicians, group members, and those who don't. And finally, I'd like to welcome the ancestors who lived in this land where we are now. Welcome the spirits of Mi'kmaq, the natives who lived in this area before the Europeans came. I'd like to acknowledge them and invite their spirits to this space. Everyone, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so today we are going to talk more about COVID and loss and grief a little bit. It's been a tough couple of weeks here in Nova Scotia with the COVID numbers going sky high and then coming down a little bit, and then they're up again today. But Biden and I thought it might be appropriate to talk about grief, loss, and COVID for people. And then we're going to be joined by Avalon Moore, incredibly talented artist, born on a Tuesday is her artist name, and she's going to share some insights, I guess, and wisdom that she's learned, and I guess the therapeutic benefits of art for her. And she said a lot. And then we'll do a loving kindness meditation, and that will conclude today. So Vida, how are you doing on this May 12th? It's kind of overcast and a bit chilly out. I find it chilly. You might not.
Yeah, I'm hot all year round. I bought a coat this year with anticipation of having a colder winter, and only wore it once and had to remove it as soon as I got in my car. So
Ah,
to me, this is just a lovely balmy day.
a lovely balmy day.
Yeah.
Yes. And you look fabulous in your superhero
Yeah.
shirt. You've got a
Yeah,
great theme going on.
I do. And I thought, I think you're going to talk a little bit about something in a few minutes, one of our initiatives, and it kind
Oh,
of
yes.
has a hero's theme that goes along. So I thought I would try and continue
Yes.
my t-shirt theme for a while.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm doing well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are also joined with Kate. We are all safely, strategically distanced. We are practicing our safety protocols here so we can do that. So before I talk about this, I want to say another thanks and gratitude. Big heartfelt thanks and gratitude to the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia. I just want to acknowledge their support for us, the After Trauma Empowerment Network, for us to be able to do this program, and just the amazing work that they do in our province to help support mental health initiatives and changing the way people think. They're doing an amazing job, and I just want to acknowledge the work that they do in the province and share our gratitude for their help and support for us. And I want to thank everybody who watches this video, whether you're participating in it live with us or you're going to watch it on YouTube. Just thank you for taking the time to watch and listen. And hopefully you feel like you gained a little something when you're done. And as I mention every time, please feel free to email us your comments. If there's a topic you want us to explore or talk about, if you are a musician or an artist and you would like to come on and share that with us and with our audience, please do. Just contact us and we'll make that happen. Because that's what we do. Okay. So something that I think Vida was referencing was right now we have a GoFundMe page up. It's GoFundMe Help After Trauma by Margaret Major. And we have set a goal of $10,000. We are looking to raise money to pay for our operational expenses for close to a year. So that would include our rent, insurance, phone and internet. So office supplies, just basic operational expenses. And we need community champions and corporate heroes to step up and please support us. Every little bit helps. $5, $50, $500. It all adds together, and this allows us to be able to offer our free services to individuals, families that are affected by trauma, whether it's current, recent trauma or historical trauma, intergenerational trauma. Anyone can come here who's experienced trauma and find support and healing. And we want to be able to continue to offer those services to people. So please, even, I mean, at your workplace, if everybody threw in $2, you might be able to donate $20, and that would help us immensely. So if you go to GoFundMe and you search for After Trauma Empowerment Network, Actually, don't search for that. Search for, search for help after trauma. That's the name of the GoFundMe fundraiser. And I also wanted to add, oh, okay, thank you. Kate's gonna copy the link, and there she did. Wonderful, look at that. I don't know if she, to everyone, yay. And please share that link. Learning every day. Thank you, Kate. Okay, where was I? Yes, I was contacted by a couple of people who wanted just to make a direct e-transfer to us, which is an option as well. We also accept donations that way. And to make an e-transfer, you can email to info, info, at attendns.ca. So ATENNS.ca. Or you can just call us or send us an email and we can help direct you further. And I just want to say thank you for your support in this. Let me see. Okay, this is exciting. I just got an email about this probably only a couple of hours ago. I checked my email and there was an email from the Premier's office, the Premier of Nova Scotia, saying that May 20th is going to be officially proclaimed as Trauma Awareness Day in Nova Scotia. And it's woohoo, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for us just to learn about trauma, the symptoms of trauma, the impact of trauma, the different kinds of trauma. And there are many, many, many forms of trauma. So this is big news for the After Trauma Empowerment Network, for the province to recognize that. And this is how we increase awareness. And this is how we work toward prevention. I mean, you can't prevent trauma all the time. There's no one can prevent trauma all the time. But we can become more trauma aware. And that's our goal. So next Wednesday, we're going to probably spend the whole hour talking about trauma, symptoms and impact, self-care, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, some coping strategies, and it will all be about becoming trauma informed and trauma aware. And please email if you have any questions about that or you want us to focus on something specific. So, woohoo on Premier Ian Rankin. Thank you so much for proclaiming Trauma Awareness Day in Nova Scotia. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Vida, any words? Any words?
Well, I'm just very pleased to hear that you were able to be a part of getting our new premier to acknowledge trauma and in such a way. And I think, I mean, we keep referring to the past year, and it's actually over a year now that we've been dealing with COVID and of course the mass shootings and all the other tragedies that followed. I just, I don't think part of what I'm afraid of after living through this to date is what is to come in the future. And this is, and I might be calling it the wrong thing, but I think it's National Nursing Awareness Week.
Yes, yes.
And so I've been watching some coverage about frontline workers, in particular nurses, who have been working so diligently and so hard and dealing with the COVID crisis, and who haven't had a break. I mean, we live in a province where our healthcare is always, short on what we really need when it comes to nursing and doctors and other people involved in healthcare. And I watched an interview of a nurse. I can't remember. I think it was someone from Toronto or Ontario. And it was quite difficult to watch her talking about how hard it has been for her and her colleagues to go to work every day and to not be able to go home to their families at the end of the day, sometimes because of the fear that they could bring the virus to their families, and you know, the normal places that they would usually go to, or the people they would normally go to deal with their stress and their feelings around, you know, watching the things that they have to watch aren't
Yeah.
there. So really, she talked a lot about how they have to lean on each other, and how they, you know, as a team, they're there for each other, and that's how they're getting through this.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess while we're in the crisis, that if you're working with other people, you can do that. But again, my fear is, she talked about knowing people who have quit nursing, who've left a career that they love because it's just too difficult.
Right.
She talked about losing colleagues to suicide, and things, and so this is already happening, and I'm just hoping that we find a way to put the resources that we're going to need in the future to deal with the after effects of, you know, when this does finally settle down. And I don't know if we'll ever go back to exactly the way we were before.
No.
I think change is part of living anyway, and so things will change. But I know that, you know, people sometimes buckle down and seem to be able to deal with stuff when the crisis is happening.
Mm.
But my fear is when it's over and when that pressure's off and you have those times to sit and think and feel the feelings that maybe you didn't acknowledge while you were doing your job. And how is that going to impact, you know, all of us, and in particular, the people who've been carrying the frontline work that, you know, like nurses and doctors and
Yeah.
caregivers and so on. So, you know, anything we can do to create awareness and encourage other people to look for resources or create resources or find creative
Mhm.
ways to help others or themselves deal with stress. You know, I'm so happy to be part of that. And I just hope that we're going to be prepared for what's to come. Now that some of the stigma and the taboo about talking about stress and mental health in
Mhm.
particular, and post-traumatic stress and grief and those topics, you know, we're now talking more than we used to ever about these things, and because of it, more people are going to be looking for support and for resources. And I hope that we're going to be able to meet the need that we're going to have. We already, I think you've said, if you
Mhm.
look at the GoFundMe page, we've tripled in a year the numbers of people that are accessing our services here.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we've done some awareness and even, you know, had some media coverage. But it scares me if we really buckled down, and if everyone knew about our services and other services like us,
Yeah.
how busy would we really be?
I
And
know.
need is there, and so I hope that it gets the recognition and is put in the priority where it should be. It should have always been there.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
Yeah. That's all good
you know,
stuff. Very
yeah,
important. And
yeah,
we'll be there. We'll be there advocating,
yeah,
Vida. We won't be quiet.
yeah. No, I'm not a quiet person.
No, and you gotta wear your superhero shirt.
Yes, I'll get a cape next week.
I need to take a drink of my coffee. I'm not sure if I should be showing it on screen. There we go. So you almost touched on a couple of points that I was going to just briefly get onto, because it's 6:20 already. It's like,
Oh, wow.
oh, our time goes so quick on here. We could easily do 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, yes,
Maybe
yes.
we'll have a Zoom marathon someday and we'll see how long we can actually go.
Yeah.
A Zoom marathon.
Wow.
Oh,
Well, I
Kate
don't
says people do this.
ah, and I'm quite shy, but I might be able to talk a little more than usual. So,
You're shy.
yeah, very, yes,
A good one, Vida.
yeah. Anyway, that would be interesting to have like, it would be interesting to do a marathon and have guests and
Yeah,
topics. Yeah,
yeah. It's a good idea. We'll look into that. We'll
yeah.
make that happen. Yeah. So something I guess we'll just spend a couple of minutes on, because I'm really excited to get to Avalon and hear and see what she's going to share with us. Very excited. So Vida mentioned about change and the amount of change that our whole world has gone through in the past, well, over a year, because it's been since March of 2020, when we went into lockdown, shutdown mode. And life changed substantially for everybody. We couldn't just go to the store to pick up a pair of shoes, or we couldn't go see our hairstylist or go to the vet clinic unless it was an emergency. People weren't able to just go over to their friend's place on a Saturday night and gather and connect. People weren't able to go to their places of worship. Just life changed substantially, and there wasn't necessarily a master plan for how to deal with this, because I don't think the world anticipated the world having to deal with this on this magnitude. It's just not something that I don't think anybody's radar. So we're all learning how to navigate through this together. There's been lots of innovative ways of how to help people connect in safe ways, because it's just not safe for us to get together in a group of 20 people. Whether you're socially distancing or not, it's not safe right now. And I think Kate said it's 149 cases today, and we're coming down. We're not in the 200s anymore, which is good. But part of the substantial change is the loss that we've all experienced. And by loss in this context, I'm not necessarily referring to the death of somebody. The loss of routine, the loss of what's normal for you, the loss of predictability. You know, you can't just go over and have card night anymore or dart night. So some feelings associated with loss that I just want to remind everybody, because in the midst of dealing with this pandemic and this crisis, there's a lot of feelings that are normal given the situation that everybody is dealing with. But I think that sometimes people feel like they're not handling it properly or correctly. What they're feeling isn't normal. So the reason I want to share some common feelings of loss is so if you're experiencing some of this, please know that it's normal. It might be uncomfortable, but it's normal. When you think about loss and grieving and change and growth. So some of the common feelings associated with loss is shock, disbelief, denial, numbness, feeling disorganized, not able to make clear decisions, confusion, anxiety, panic, fear. You can have explosive emotions, guilt, regret, sadness, and depression. And I could spend time on each one of those, going even deeper. But that's just kind of an overview of some of the common feelings associated with with loss. So if you're experiencing any of those, just, I'm not saying that this is the reason why. I'm just putting it out there that it could be helpful for you to do a check-in with yourself and ask yourself if you could be going through some grieving, mourning the loss of something in your life. It could even be a job. A lot of students not being able to go to class, go to their schools anymore. There would be grieving in that as well. And I think it's just, it's important to know that sometimes what we're feeling is normal, even though it can be overwhelming or very uncomfortable or really intense to try to manage and be present with. Is there anything you want to add about loss in that way?
Just I found a few conversations I've had with people in the last week or so, especially for us here in Nova Scotia, because we've had a rise in the numbers of people testing positive and community spread potentially happening and so on.
Mhm.
Is the number of people who said to me, "Oh my heavens, I have such a short temper. I find myself getting upset at things that I never would have been upset about." And like
Mhm.
a couple of times people have said, "My poor cat, all it did was meow at me 2 times and I lost it because I was just short tempered." And
Yeah,
I think that's one. I personally have noticed that in myself. I don't tend to
me
be
too.
tempered, but I have noticed myself sometimes sounding very short or feeling angry about stuff that I should, wouldn't normally be angry about.
Yeah,
Um, so, again, just like you said, doing a check-in with yourself and noticing how am I feeling that is different, or are my behaviors different than usual, and just sitting back and going, okay, it's maybe a chance now to, what are the things when I do get, to the point where I'm getting short tempered, or I'm sad, or I'm whatever, what do I need to do? Take some time for myself to kind of ground myself and give myself some time and just be patient with myself. And I see a lot of things on Facebook, on the news feed, and right, again, in the last couple of weeks, especially, just telling people, reminding each other to have patience with themselves,
yes.
and to remember that, things will get better, hopefully. And, that this will, as my mother likes to say, this too shall pass.
Ah,
And
yes, yes.
just some of those simple routines, again, like we've been talking a lot about art and music, but there are lots of things that people sometimes forget to do in their lives when they are stressed, that maybe you need to take some time and not think about it as being selfish, but just think about it as taking care of yourself,
Yeah,
so you can be the best person you can be.
yeah.
um, and that's not being selfish.
No, no.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all great stuff. Yes, practicing patience with ourselves is so important. We need to do that all the time. That'll be an episode. We'll talk about that sometime.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I think we need to introduce Avalon because it's like 6:30. So there's Avalon. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Can we hear, is audio
Yeah.
working?
Can you hear me now?
Very.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. I don't think we've ever met, Vita, but it's lovely to finally meet you. I've heard your name lots of times.
Yes, and I've heard yours, and I was a former staff person and volunteer at Avalon Center. So when Mark talks about Avalon, I always have to check in. Is it Avalon Center? Is it Avalon the person?
It was very confusing for everyone while I was working at the Colchester Sexual Assault
Yes.
Center.
What's Avalon doing in
And
Truro?
Avalon the person.
Yeah. Very nice to meet you.
Yes. It's so awesome that you're here. I've been looking forward to seeing what you're going to share with us. Yes.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again too, Margaret.
Yes. We'll once it's socially appropriate, we'll have to get together for a socially appropriate coffee or tea.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Yeah. So how have you been? How have you been coping through this pandemic?
Oh, I think sort of in the way that most people have, with the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working for mental health on the South Shore now, and having that as a part of the structure has been good. But yeah, it's been a variety of things. There've been some things that have been really challenging, and some things that have been, nice things throughout. So
Yeah.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was going to talk a bit about comics making in particular as sort of
please.
something that something that I've used throughout the pandemic, and also have used before as a part of my personal strategies for getting through stuff. And I was thinking, in kind of preparing for talking tonight, I was thinking about what it is that draws me to comics, and sort of what I see as the parallels between that kind of art making and therapy work, because yeah, for me, there were sort of similar things that drew me to both. And I started in comics many years before I started working in therapy. But some of the common threads that I see between them, and this applies to a lot of different kinds of art making in general, but having ways of taking internal experience that's sort of outside of language or hasn't been articulated yet, and being able to take those things and make them into something external, bring them outside of oneself, whether that's through language or whether that's through imagery, so that it becomes something that isn't just inside you taking over you, but is outside of you and next to you, and possible to interact with, and to develop more awareness around, but also be able to engage with differently, because it's not just yourself now, it's this other thing that's there with you. And I'm also just really interested in the ways that humans try to translate their internal experience into like bridges to each other's internal experience. And that's something that I think happens within therapy, or that we try to kind of create spaces for in therapy, getting these portals into each other's inner lives. And it's also something that I think art is often trying to do, creative work of all kinds, try to get at sort of those things that feel sort of indefinable inside ourselves, and then figure out how to touch on those things that exist in other people too. And for me, that's always a really healing experience, both when I'm witnessing it from somebody else, and when I'm able in some way to kind of get there in myself. So I made a little slideshow, and I'll see how this will work. So it says that host has disabled attendee screen sharing. Is there a way that we can
let me see how I would do that? How do you know how I would do that? I'm gonna make you a co-host and see if that will work.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, now I'll try again. Okay, it looks like it's gonna work. Yes.
Okay.
So can you guys see my screen now? I can't tell yet if it's working.
I
Does it look like?
Yes.
Okay, great. So
there we go. Come on, potato.
So I was just going to talk a little bit about my own comics making practice, and sort of where that's come from, and some of the ways that I've thought about it, and also some of the ways that I've used it over the years for myself, and in my work with other people. So I have a little website called Born on a Tuesday, and I started that back in 2012 when I was in my undergrad at Concordia, and I at the time was doing a creative writing degree, and then I had to take a bunch of literature classes for that, and one of them that I ended up taking was a graphic novels class, where we were just learning all about the history of comics making and all the different ways that it's been used, and that kind of opened my mind up to the fact that it's so it's just such a flexible way of expressing ideas, because you can basically do anything with it. Like, it's just any combination of words and images that you want. And so then a couple of years ago, when I was doing my Master's of Education at Acadia, I did a thesis project where I used comics making and group conversation with queer identifying young people, and we did this collaborative process together of making comics about our experiences of queerness and our experiences of queer community. So this is a flip chart that I used as part of that project, where we were first talking about, why I had kind of proposed comics as a way for us to work together. And so some of these things just summarize what I was just saying a minute ago. I love comics because it's a really inclusive way of making visual art. I haven't actually really thought about myself as a visual artist very much in my life, because I have a lot of friends who are, classically trained artists who are capable of doing these like amazing, like realist portraits of things. And that's not, what I do. But with comics, you can make stick figures, you can make collage, you can do doodles, you can have something that's mostly words and where you just do some abstract stuff around it. Like, it can basically expand or contract to mean whatever it is that an individual needs it to mean in order to make something out of that. And I really love that, because even, week to week, when I'm in different moods or when I'm interested in different things, it ends up looking very different ways. So I put in some excerpts from the zine that I ended up making with my co-participants in my thesis project. So this is one of my participants chose to do collage. So they, wrote these thoughts on paper and then took images out of National Geographics that they liked and that they felt resonated with what they were saying. And I thought that was a really beautiful way of using the comics form. Another participant who she herself was a visual artist, and she did this really beautiful illustration that we ended up using as the cover for the zine. And this was her talking about how her heart has space for all of these different things that she didn't, growing up, she wasn't told that she would have all of these different kinds of experiences of love and sex and friendship. So this was her writing in all of the different people and experiences that are a part of her heart, which is very beautiful. And then our other participant, she decided to take quotes from, during our discussions, we would audio record our group discussions together, and then I would transcribe them. So she chose some quotes from out of that, of things that she found meaningful, wrote those out, and then did these kind of abstract drawings with markers to go along with them. So everyone really went in very different directions with what it meant to them to make a comic. And that was really fun, because then it meant that, like, all of us had a different way of expressing ourselves, but that we could put it all together into a thing that was still called comics. So there was a way of organizing it all together and linking it all.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is one of my comics from Born on a Tuesday. And when I was getting ready to talk about this stuff, I was thinking about how there are kind of different general categories that I see in when I'm making a comic. What is it that I'm doing as I'm making that comic? And one of the general categories was kind of just reminders to myself. And I think this might be the biggest category. And I see an overlap here between this and therapy. Like, when I go to therapy myself as the client, I find that often what's happening is that I'm kind of bringing stuff outside of myself by saying things out loud, but then also with my therapist, creating ways for me to remember or to be reminded of things that often I've known in the past at some point, but have forgotten, or that I'm aware of theoretically, but haven't used for myself in some way. And it's like a way of kind of trying to create these anchors for myself so that I'll come back to them. And comics often work that way for me. So this one, where I just did this series of drawings of the moon, was a reminder to myself that I often feel like I've landed at some end point in, whatever it is that I'm doing in life, and that's it. I've discovered the final thing, when really I'm just in a constant process of change. And that's something that I need to constantly remind myself of over and over and over again. So a lot of my comics end up having the same kinds of themes, because I'm just kind of reinforcing these things that come in and out of awareness for me, and that I find I benefit from kind of focusing in on them. This was another reminder comic. This one is about something that I think many of us struggle with, maybe particularly during the pandemic. I've certainly found my phone scrolling zone out thing has been worse. This is just a way of like creating a reminder for myself that it's like I trick myself over and over again into thinking that that's going to make me feel good, and it just never does. So it's an ongoing, I think, collective addiction that we all have to deal with. But making a comic like this is kind of a way of both making fun of myself, but also kind of tripping myself a little bit when I'm going towards that compulsion, having this image that I've created for myself that's a reminder. And then another way that I use comics is when I'm trying to work through kind of a difficult or challenging idea and get somewhere different with it in myself. So these are parts of a comic that I made last year in June, just after George Floyd's murder and the Black Lives Matter protests, and all of the awareness that was going on, that was really, really valuable and really important, and also really hard, for me and for, I think, a lot of people who are trying to figure out, like, how do I incorporate all of this kind of pain and turn it into something that's useful to the people who have been harmed. And the process of making this comic was really difficult because I was really trying to articulate a lot of stuff that I think I had a lot of fear around how to say it or what to say that would be right or that would be helpful. But by the end, I felt like I got somewhere new in myself and had kind of a touchstone of this idea of thinking about the value that can come from exercising a muscle that hasn't been exercised enough, that it's that there is pain and exhaustion in that process, but it's towards a positive end. And then these ones, sort of similarly, I feel like fit into the category of working through something challenging. So something that I've noticed is that I can have, and again, this reminds me of therapy, where it's like sometimes I actually, either as a therapist or as a client, there are moments that happen in therapy where it's like suddenly some little thing has had a light shone on it, and then all of this extra space gets opened up. In myself, or between me and another person, or in a way of seeing things. And there's a feeling of new choices. And there have been many times where I use comics in this way for myself. I also use journaling this way, I think, a little bit, where it's a way of kind of talking to myself and keeping myself company through something challenging. And of digesting a feeling so that I can get somewhere new with it. So it's like I have my goal in my mind where I know theoretically where I want to get to. And then the comic is a way of trying to bring myself along, like the more fearful or the hurt or the sad parts of myself, along to that other place. So these are a couple of comics that stood out to me when I was going back through ones where when I made them, it felt like something kind of clicked into a new spot in me. So even though I was going through a challenging thing, it kind of allowed me to get to a different place by articulating it. And then these ones go into a third category, which is there are times when I can't carry myself to a different place. And this has actually been something, these two come from a few years ago, so they were before the pandemic, but it's something that I've thought about a lot in making art, or trying to do creative things throughout the pandemic, is that there has often been a really deep feeling of lethargy in me, or a feeling of there's nothing to say. Like, I don't have a story to tell right now. I don't have any idea how to turn these things into meaning in some way. But the helpful thing for me in having this weekly deadline that I've set for myself, where every week I put out a comic, is that I just have to do something. And there's been something that's been really helpful about seeing that it's possible to make something out of something, even when I don't really have anything to say. So if if the feeling is just what is being expressed in these two comics here, it's like that nothing feels good, or that I feel like I'm like melting into a blob, you can still make something out of that, and then have, again, this kind of external experience of that thing, where it's not just this wordless thing that's taking me over. It then becomes something where it's next to me also, so I can engage with it, or I can have a little bit of space around it rather than it being everything.
Yes.
And this one is actually just from this past week, because it was sort of in that kind of headspace where I was like, I really don't know what to say right now about the things that are going on, and just thinking about how I had been engaging with myself. I use these little, I call them my neuroses ghosties. Sometimes I make
I love that. You need a t-shirt, Avalon.
So every once in a while they pop up as a way of kind of me showing my internal dialogue or monologues that can go on. But so this one was just kind of, recognizing that a part of the negotiation that's been going on for me lately has been that it isn't possible, like that these worries come up and I just have no way of coming to any kind of conclusion. And that they keep coming up and I keep having no way of coming to any conclusion. And that's just, it's just the place that it is right now. And I didn't actually make this one out of being in a place of anxiety with that. It was really sort of just feeling that's just the way it is right now. And I didn't really actually feel like I had anything to say about it. So I wasn't sure if it would work as a comic, but then I was like, well, I'll just make it and then it'll just be there. And then it felt nice to have it down on paper. And, one of the things that I've enjoyed about the comic process is that it, even though I don't always feel like doing it, and even though I don't always in the moment feel like it's a worthwhile thing to put out into the world, it leads to really lovely interactions with others, which kind of comes back to that feeling of, the creating of portals between people. Is I've just had really lovely little interactions with people, both just strangers on the internet, but also friends or acquaintances or people who I, don't know that well, but who we follow each other on social media or whatever. And then I think it's the thing of like vulnerability can create more vulnerability, and sharing creates more sharing. So it's been very, very touching when I've gotten really vulnerable messages from people just sharing, how something has sat with them, or the experience that they've been going through, or the fact that a particular comic resonated for a particular reason. And that, it's just always, I think it's something that feels surprising, even though it shouldn't, because it's also the way that it works in conversation. And again, it's also the way that it works in therapy for me. It's like, sometimes I'll say something, say to my therapist, and then have understanding reflected back, or a sense of like shared experience reflected back. And it's something that I wouldn't have necessarily expected that to be the case with. And then there's kind of, again, this feeling of expansion around that, of like, oh, right, this isn't just, me in this small alone space. This is like a part of being human and being with other humans and experiencing being alive. And then the last kind of little category that I wanted to talk about is this isn't actually a project that I've put up online anywhere, but it was a project that I did a few years ago when I was processing some family trauma and some kind of intergenerational trauma that exists in my family context. And I was really lucky to be able to go on an artist residency at the Klondike Institute of Arts and Culture in Dawson. And so I spent a month just kind of like doing this solo kind of therapeutic art practice with myself of trying to, again, like turn these things that were really difficult to articulate and that I wasn't sure how to express them into something that existed outside of myself and that I was able to turn into some kind of story. And it was a really, really beautiful process to be able to do this. And I really love collaging. So this whole project I did using collage as the way of creating images. And later I was actually able to share this with some of my family members. And that was painful, but it also kind of sparked some more, I think, understanding and ways. It's something that I think has been possible to use then in kind of processes of change in some small way. So, and actually while I was working at the Colchester Sexual Assault Center, there were a couple of presentations that I gave around healthy relationships and around healing from trauma and creating kind of new patterns of communication, where I used parts of this project as part of my presentation in order to kind of like talk through the ways that I have approached like healing from intergenerational patterns of trauma and conflict. So yeah,
There we
that's
go.
Wow.
I know. I want to.
Yeah.
Wow, Avalon. That's like I went to a show. I feel like I owe an admission fee or something.
oh my god.
Oh, I loved all of them. They all had like they all spoke to me in a different way. And the one that I guess stood out, because we talked a little bit about change and loss, was the healthy discomfort one that you did. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And
Yeah.
then the one on the intergenerational trauma patterns,
Yeah.
like that's powerful too. And I know that anyone who listens to this is going to feel inspired, especially with your neuroses ghosties. I love it. You need a t-shirt. You could have a whole market line, Avalon, of your neuroses ghosties.
Yeah.
That's a fun idea.
So this might seem like I actually have two questions. One would be, is there a suggestion that you might be able to make to anyone who does view this, who might be thinking, hey, when I hear someone talking about wanting to externalize some of that internal stuff and like be able to get that out, so to speak, is there an exercise or a technique or something, a suggestion that you would have to anyone that might want to just try something?
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you're like me and you're intimidated by kind of more formal kinds of art practice, or by the idea that something needs to be beautiful, like really go down to the bare basics, and like you can draw a stick figure with a speech bubble saying a thing. You know, a lot of my comics are like little blobs with speech bubbles that are saying things to each other. And, you know, so it's like figuring out what would feel like the least intimidating way to put something down on paper. There's a comics artist named Linda Barry who has a lot of exercises where she suggests things like drawing with your left hand, like, you know, doing all kinds of things to kind of get yourself back into more of a, like the child's way of approaching art making. Because it's not about making something beautiful. It's about figuring out, you know, just how do you get something out. So that's part of why I love collage too, is that the images exist already. You just have to put them together in a way that feels good. You can like, you know, cut out words and put them together with an image, and that can be a comic, like one word, one image together. And that can still be a way of kind of finding a new way of looking at something that's been going on for you. I think like there are so many web comics out there that I have found inspiring because they're not trying to, be high art at all.
Yeah.
And there's so many different styles of things. So kind of hunting around on the internet, and looking at things and finding things that resonate with you. But yeah, I would say like, you don't need it to be a story. You don't need it to be insightful. You don't need it to be, it's like, just get rid of any lofty ambitions at all and just make something. And then you'll have something that's there outside of you to look at, and you can be in a dialogue with that thing. Then, it's like a lot of the time I make comics and I hate them. And then a few days later I look at them and I'm like, oh, I see what that is now. So just kind of allowing space for that it's uncomfortable, because there are a lot of ideas around, it's like who is an artist and who's not, or what counts as art making.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Violet. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I found I was one of the people. I went to a workshop years ago where I was invited by a woman who was facilitating a session with a group of women who were in prison. And a lot of the women, of course, had negative beliefs and thoughts about themselves. And what we were to do was just take a simple drawing of our own hand and then surround it with as many positive words and things in our lives that as we could. And I was just going to sit there and watch. And one of the women, one of the inmates said to me, Vida, you're not sitting here and watching, you're doing this too. And I said, but I'm not a good artist. And she put her hand on me and she said, neither am I, but if I have to do it, you're going to do it. And so I thought, okay. And I did. And for me, that was a big breakthrough, just challenging myself to let go of that. Oh, it has to look a certain way and it has to be perfect. And ever since then, I have really tried to find creative ways through art and, music, whatever it might be, to help people. I guess you use a different part of your brain when you're doing creative things. And sometimes it allows you to look at those more difficult, emotional, deep things in a different way. And it takes it outside of you. And sometimes I guess, like you said, you can sort of manipulate it outside of yourself. I think that can really help people when they're trying to figure out where they need to go in their journey. And why they are the way they are, or why things are the way they are. And I just watch, looking at your comics, like the one that struck me was the I don't know, the little person that was saying to the, I don't know. And I think, again, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I don't know how many times I have said that. Somebody said, when is this going to change? Do you think it'll ever end? And I wanted to have an answer, but all I find myself saying is I don't know. And it's okay to not know. And, I just found that was like very powerful to see that particular comic.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm very, very grateful that you came on and shared with us, Avalon. And hopefully you'll consider coming back again, maybe.
Yeah,
to share
for
some
sure.
more. Because I could listen to you all day. And I'm even thinking like maybe once we're able to have like a group kind of session, maybe we can get you out to do a workshop or something.
Oh yeah, that would be really fun.
Sometime.
I would love that.
Yeah. Awesome. So my last question for you, Avalon, is do you prefer pizza or pasta?
Pizza for sure.
Yay!
I am deeply dedicated to pizza.
I hear you. Yeah. Just the word is yummy to me. Just the word. All right. Well, it's 7 o'clock. So we're going to conclude this part. I'm still going to do my loving kindness meditation at the end because I like to leave on that note. But thank you again so much, Avalon, for
Thank you so much
joining
for
us.
inviting me. It was really, really an honor to do it, and really fun to be able to reflect on all of these things myself. So thank you.
Well, I know that you're going to inspire people, and we'll definitely connect again, hopefully soon.
Bye.
Take good care of you.
You too.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Whoa. Blew my earbud right out of my ear. Oh, I could just look at her stuff all day.
Yes.
I love her stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And wouldn't that be cool if we could get her out like maybe in the fall or something and do a some kind of a workshop, like
Yes.
a hands-on artistic kind of workshop. That would be wonderful. Yeah. Now I'm excited about that.
Very exciting.
Okay, so I try to honor our time frame and be respectful of that boundary from 6 till 7. But as we know, we can get talking and we don't want to stop. We just have so much great information that we want to talk about and share. So I'm still going to do the loving kindness meditation. I'll just do the short 2-verse version. And again, I just want to thank everybody who joined us live for this, and thank Avalon for joining us. And again, if you want to see some more of Avalon's work, it's bornonatuesday.com. And she's got a ton of awesome stuff there. Plus, she'll be back sometime. She said she would. So for this, just all you have to do is just listen to me again for a couple of minutes. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, please do so. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just find something that you can fix your stare on for a couple of minutes. And just be comfortable in this space right now, in the here and now. Hearing the sounds of the room. Put all your stress and worries up on the shelf just for the next few minutes, and you can take them back down when you're finished with this meditation. And just allow your breathing just to be natural. You may notice that your breathing will start to slow down. And as you relax more into this space, and your breathing slows a little bit, begin to feel any tension start to drain away from you. Feel any tension start to drain away from your eyes, your face, through your neck, down your arms. Feel any tension drain like a liquid down through your body and out through your toes. Now begin to feel your body fill up with love. Imagine a loving white light entering your feet, traveling up through your body, up to your stomach, to your chest, and your arms. Feel it almost bursting through your heart, your fingers, and through the crown of your head. And when you feel embraced in that love, silently repeat the following words to yourself. May I be free from all harm. May I be safe and protected. May I be free from all suffering. May I be happy. May I be free from all disease and physical pain. May I be healthy and strong. And may I be able to live in this world happily, peacefully, joyfully, and with ease. Now turn your thoughts to this vast world, the earth with all its living creatures. Continue to feel that love bursting through your body as you silently say, may all beings be free from all harm. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings be free from all suffering. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from all disease and physical pain. May they be healthy and strong. And may all beings be able to live in this world happily, peacefully, joyfully, and with ease. Send your love as far out around the world as possible. And just imagine that energy traveling through the earth. Feel that love centered around your heart. Feel yourself in this present moment, in the now. Feeling the weight of your feet on the floor. Carry this feeling with you through the rest of your day, reconnecting with it when you need to. And when you are ready, you may slowly open your eyes. There we go. There. Oh, there's that sunshine coming through the window.
I know.
Oh,
It does it every week. Even in a storm, it does it.
I know. Where's the sun? It's not even out. Hollywood can't do this kind of stuff.
No. And the timing is perfect every week.
Okay, so we're going to conclude for today. Thank you, everybody, for being
Yeah.
part of this. And yes, next week we're going to spend the whole hour talking about trauma. So we look forward to sharing that information and I guess insights for you. Take very good care of yourself and take care of each other and stay safe. Thank you. And we'll see you
Next week.
next Wednesday, the 19th. The 19th, yes. Take care and be well. Bye-bye.